Welcome to Your Retirement Playbook. I'm your host, Joe Clark. I hope you're having an outstanding day. Hey, we are talking about dealing with detours. This whole theme of the summer as I travel around in my big white Jeep that I love and enjoy being in with my dogs and my wife. There are an awful lot of detours. There's a lot of construction that is going on, and the plans that you have just get changed. And I want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to be able to address issues that we don't know that are coming, but be prepared to address them before they actually occur. And it's one of those things that I call a financial vision inside of the financial planning process. We created a proprietary system when I taught at Purdue, trademarked it. It's the family focus process, and it consists of your financial vision and then the 5 critical elements, the areas that I think are most likely to interrupt or cause a detour in your financial plan. One of them we're going to go to today, and I'm going to be kind of raw with you and just share with you my life. I think that's my job, by the way, being on this show, to try to help give you an understanding and an insight into how I view life, my perspectives. That doesn't mean that it matches everybody on my team, but the process that we use matches everybody on our team, if that makes sense. We may not all arrive at the same conclusion. Some are much younger than I am, a few are older than I am. None have more experience than I do, but that's because I was fortunate enough to start when I was 21 inside of the industry. When we look at this, though, we want to make sure that we have a documented process, our financial vision that says, here's where we are and here's where we want to go. Well, it's hard to document a long-term strategy for annual tax planning, hence the word annual. That's the second of the 5 critical elements. It changes all of the time. And we're constantly, I spend 6 days of my life a year in tax planning meetings where I do nothing but talks about private letter rulings, what Congress has done, what the IRS is trying to interpret that to mean, etc. That's my job. It's what I signed up for. I secretly don't tell people. I actually enjoy it. I love learning and being able to take into those changes and try to figure out how that changes my path, my journey of where Barb and I are trying to get to and where I'm trying to help the families that I'm responsible for get to on their financial journey. The legacy strategy, however, is an interesting period of time. I think most people think about, I'm here today and I'm dead tomorrow. And tomorrow, hopefully a long way away. But I go from being perfectly normal to dead. And that's how most trusts are written. It's how most estate plans are drawn up. It's just, in my experience, that is not the case. And I've got an awful lot of statistical data to back it up. Most of you don't want to know it. But over 52% of us, according to the Medical Association, will die with a diagnosis of some form of dementia. That doesn't mean Alzheimer's. It doesn't mean Parkinson's. It just means we're not going to be as sharp at 85 as we were at 55. And that's just part of that common thing. For doing this for 35 years, I've watched people mentally and physically decay over a period of time. They can't necessarily make the same decisions with the clarity that they did 20 years ago today. And that's that's the reality. The exchange, as you get older, you get a little bit wiser. So hopefully the wisdom counteracts the ability to take in a lot of different details. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But when I get to that legacy part, I want to deal with where I am now, where I'm going to be while I'm still here, and what happens when I'm actually gone. And to do that, I've created what we call a letter of intention. So the Financial Enhancement Group is one of the few places in the financial services world that has a financial trust division. And notice I didn't say a trust department. We're not a bank, don't want to be one. That's not the objective. I don't have a trust document that I give you that you have to sign. Our trust division, I work with an attorney, Tom Hurley, and then we've got that's internal, and we've got our own many external attorneys that we work with, including yours if you would like to. But that trust division is designed to be able to help give you a financial answer, an avenue for decision making while you're still here and after you're gone, if that's what you so desire, to be able to help take care of your spouse, loved ones that are left behind, your beneficiaries, your charities, what have you. But that letter of intention really breaks down into here's who I am and here's what I want to have happen. I don't want my family to have any indecision or argument. I have two daughters and a wife. They're all emotional. If something happened to me, I would imagine they would be emotional. But a couple of them are more hard-headed than the others. And I don't want, the other people to be quieted while somebody says, hey, here's what's happening, and taking charge. Something sounds like I would have done. I know. You didn't fall too far from the block. That's what I'm hearing a lot of you say. The reality is I want that letter to be able to tell people things that I want done when I'm gone and how I want to be treated while I'm still here. So as you write your letter of intention, and again, you don't have to go to an attorney to do this. It's not necessarily a legal document, though mine is included with my trust. So I have a trust that I had prepared for by an attorney. And remember, I have a unique advantage. I have read trusts for more than 300 different law firms. 300 different law firms. So whereas an attorney may go to classes to be able to read documents and prepares documents, I can't do that. I've gone to the classes, but I can't prepare the documents. I am not an attorney and don't play one on TV or radio. But I've been able to read what you guys have brought in from more than 300 firms in probably 40 different states. And I can take great thoughts, great ideas from those various trusts, take it back to our attorneys and go, hey, what about this concept? What about this idea? I don't take stuff out of somebody's trust and give it to them. That's theft, in my opinion. It's stealing work product. But that idea, that notion of, hey, here's an interesting way to leave behind this asset, or to make sure that this thing is done. So I have my trust document that's been assembled by attorneys that Barb and I have signed. It's got my power of attorneys, my healthcare directives, the living wills, if you will, the power of attorney in case it's necessary. It shouldn't be, but just in case. I've got those documents. I've got my trust that's put together. Then I've got a summary document where I went through and said, okay, in English, in layman's terms, what does my trust say? That is something that I share with the families that I work with directly, so that they can understand. Inside of most trust, there are anywhere between 6 and 11 choices that you have to make. The rest of it is legalese, and you're going to read statutes and things of that nature. And I'm not telling you not to read it, but it's very, very difficult read if you're not an attorney. The summary is not about the statutes. The summary is, this is what you have, here's who gets it, here's how we take care of you along the way. And remember those two parts. Take care of you along the way when you can't do it yourself, and what happens when you're gone. The letter then is broken down for me in that legacy intention into the areas that I think matter the most to me. And when I sit down with my annual goals and objectives, I break my life into 5 areas, and they come in order: spiritually, relationship, health. The wealth part is last, and emotional was the addition for 2020. Unlike so many of you, or not unlike so many of you, COVID didn't go well. I didn't necessarily get it, but I lost a lot of people that I cared about, a lot of life that was lost. And I left out the emotional side of what I wanted done to be able to care for my emotion on a daily and regular basis. It's not in my letter of intention, not because I didn't add it, but because I didn't find how to fit it in and where it is. But part of my letter of intention clearly says, hey, if something happens to me, I want to continue to make these charitable gifts. I want to continue to, in spirit of generosity, be able to support these endeavors. Here's the measuring tool to use if somebody would ask for money, or an entity would go under. All of the things that can happen. Think about the roadblocks, the detours. But here's what I want to go to various charities or entities when I'm gone. And here's how I want people to be given money to while I'm still here, right? To be able to take care of that. Inside of that spiritual, and some of you can just put it as generosity, I think it needs to clearly be documented. I've watched where people have made annual gifts to their church. Suddenly their kids take over and the gifts stop. Or where all of a sudden somebody says, hey, I want to give 10% of what I have right now to the church so they can use it. And they've had the resources to do it, or they've not had the resources to be able to do it, where it would create detrimental harm to their long-term future. Those are things that need to be dealt with inside of that documentation, in my opinion, that says, hey, if I ever want to give a gift above a certain amount percentage-wise, it requires permission from other people and, to be able to do that. The second then is in relationships. And I've gone to the extent of saying, hey, here's who I want to be my pallbearer. Here's who I would like to have speak at my funeral. Here's who I want to be in charge of various things while I'm still alive. Here's who would like to be in charge of things if I'm not here. And here's how I would think about replacements of what needs to go on. The third thing then is in the health part. And I get into not the Indiana code and the legalese, but this is where I want to be, and I want to be at home as long as I can be with my dogs and my backyard and my birds and my big trees. And if it costs extra to do that, as opposed to going to a place, I'm all in. If I can afford it, and you can find the people, then that's what I want. I'm not going to say that I don't want to be a burden. I want to have a life. So if I can be at my house, I want to be at my house. Hire people to do it. You don't have to do it, but I'd rather be there. Call me, that's just the way I feel. And it's important that they know that, so there's no indecision. And then last but not least is the legacy side. And that's or the wealth side. Who gets what's left, and how are they to use it? How is it to be distributed? What thought processes should they have? And I write letters all of the time to this. I lost a bunch of letters when we moved office buildings, so I've got to start to redo them little by little. Here's what I was thinking. Here's what I meant. I think writing and documenting is critical. I hope that was helpful. It really was raw from my heart. I did my best to share, but you can go to yourlifeafterwork.com. More than happy to talk to you about your letter of intention.